The discovery. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, with stars twinkling like distant candles in the dark. For the crew of the alien exploration vessel Ventari, this was supposed to be another routine mission. Their task was to map uncharted sectors of the galaxy, searching for habitable worlds or ancient relics of lost civilizations. But today, their sensors picked up something extraordinary. Commander Yalvik, a young navigator, called out, her voice trembling with both excitement and fear. "We've detected something unusual in the asteroid field ahead. It's massive and artificial." Yalvik, a seasoned explorer with decades of experience, leaned forward in his chair, his antennae twitching. "Artificial? Are you certain?" he asked, his deep voice echoing through the quiet control room. The navigator nodded, her pale blue skin shimmering under the dim lights of the console. "Yes, sir. The energy readings are faint but unmistakable. Whatever it is, it's not natural." The crew of the Ventari was no stranger to finding ruins of ancient alien civilizations. They had seen crumbled temples, shattered starships, and abandoned colonies. But the readings they were receiving now were unlike anything they had encountered before. "Bring us closer," Yalvik ordered, his voice steady but curious. "Activate the cloaking shield. We don't know what we're dealing with." The ship glided silently into the asteroid field, its sleek design allowing it to weave between massive chunks of rock and ice. As they approached the source of the signal, the crew gasped in unison. Before them lay an enormous fleet of starships, hidden among the asteroids like a sleeping giant. The ships were colossal, their dark metal hulls etched with intricate designs that shimmered faintly under the starlight. Hundreds of vessels, perfectly aligned, floated in formation, as if waiting for a command that had never come. The ships were unlike anything the crew had ever seen. Their design was elegant yet intimidating, combining sharp angles with smooth curves. Massive cannons and energy weapons lined their sides, and some of the larger ships dwarfed even the Ventari. Most striking of all was the symbol painted boldly on each ship's hull, a simple blue and white planet surrounded by golden rays. "That's Earth," murmured Rin, the ship's historian, breaking the awestruck silence. "These ships belong to humanity, but humanity vanished 500,000 years ago, didn't they?" The room fell silent again as the weight of his words sank in. Humanity was a name spoken in hushed tones throughout the galaxy. They were a species of myth and legend, known for their unmatched technological advancements and fierce independence. But they had disappeared long before most species in the galaxy had even reached the stars. No one knew why or how. Yalvik stared at the fleet, his mind racing. "Scan the area for life signs," he commanded. "If these ships are still functional, there might be automated systems, or worse, something alive." The navigator's fingers danced across the console as she ran the scan. "No life signs detected, Commander," she reported after a tense moment. "But the energy readings, they're increasing." Yalvik's eyes widened. "Increasing? How? We haven't touched anything." "I don't know, sir," the navigator replied, her voice shaking. "It's like something woke up." Before anyone could respond, the fleet came alive. Dim lights flickered on across the ships, casting an eerie glow over the asteroid field. The massive vessels began to hum softly, the sound reverberating through the Ventari's hull. A low, mechanical voice echoed through their communication system. "Unidentified vessel, you have entered the territory of the United Earth Armada. State your purpose or face termination." Panic erupted on the bridge as the crew scrambled to respond. Yalvik held up a hand, silencing them. "Calm down," he barked. "Open a channel and respond. Quickly." Rin stepped forward, his voice steady but cautious. "This is the exploration vessel Ventari. We are peaceful explorers from the Zoreth Alliance. We mean no harm. Please, we only seek knowledge." The mechanical voice paused, as if considering their words. Then it spoke again, colder this time. "Knowledge is irrelevant. State your purpose or prepare for elimination. The tension in the room was unbearable. Yalvik's mind raced as he tried to think of a way out of this situation. The fleet's weapon systems were beginning to power up, and the Ventari's defenses were no match for even a single ship in the armada. "Commander," the navigator whispered urgently, "the signal we detected earlier, it might have been a distress beacon. Perhaps these ships are responding to what they think is a threat." Yalvik nodded. It was a risky theory, but it was all they had. "Shut down all active systems," he ordered. "Make us look as non-threatening as possible." The crew obeyed, and the Ventari drifted silently in the void. The humming of the fleet grew louder, and the ships began to reposition themselves, encircling the alien vessel. "Please," Rin said, his voice filled with desperation. "We are not your enemies. We are here to learn about the past. If you destroy us, this knowledge will be lost forever." Another pause. Then the voice replied, "You seek knowledge. Prove your worthiness. Only those who understand the cost of peace may proceed." The lights on the fleet dimmed, and a single ship broke formation, moving toward the Ventari. A beam of light enveloped the exploration vessel, scanning it from bow to stern. The crew held their breath, waiting for what would come next. "Prepare yourselves," the voice said ominously. "The legacy of humanity is not a gift. It is a test." The screen went dark, leaving the crew in silence once more. But one thing was clear. They had just awakened something far greater than themselves. History unveiled. The eerie silence in the control room of the Ventari was broken only by the hum of the approaching human warship. Its massive hull dwarfed the alien vessel, casting a shadow that seemed to consume the crew's hope. Lights flickered across the ship's surface, revealing scars of ancient battles, each one telling a story lost to time. Commander Yalvik clenched his fists as the voice returned. "Prepare to receive the archive. Access it if you dare, but be warned, only truth can unlock what lies within." Before Yalvik could respond, a beam of blue energy shot from the warship, enveloping the Ventari. The crew flinched, expecting destruction, but instead, their ship's systems lit up with streams of unfamiliar data. The alien historian, Rin, immediately began deciphering the information. It's an archive of humanity's past," Rin stammered, his hands shaking. "But this isn't like any archive I've ever seen. It's alive, adaptive." The crew gathered around as the main screen flickered to life, displaying a vast galaxy map. Stars blinked in and out, and the image zoomed to a specific region marked Earth, humanity's cradle. A narrator's voice, calm and authoritative, began to speak. "500,000 years ago, humanity rose from a fragile world to dominate the stars. Their resilience, intellect, and unity propelled them to technological heights unmatched by any other species. But with power came conflict. Images flashed of humanity's golden age, cities that floated above oceans, spacecraft the size of moons, and colonies thriving on hostile worlds. Then the scenes darkened. Fleets clashed in the void, their weapons tearing apart entire planets. Humanity's enemies were relentless, their alliances driven by fear of human supremacy. The crew watched in awe and horror as the archive revealed humanity's greatest achievement, the United Earth Armada. The screen displayed the very fleet now surrounding the Ventari. Each ship was a fortress, equipped with weaponry that could obliterate entire solar systems. These ships weren't just tools of war, they were humanity's ultimate insurance policy. Rin's voice was barely a whisper. They built this fleet not to conquer, but to ensure their survival and their legacy. The narrator continued. As the galaxy descended into chaos, humanity realized the cost of their dominance. They chose to disappear, leaving their fleet hidden and their fate a mystery. Yalvik frowned, his mind racing. Disappear. How does an entire species vanish without a trace? Before anyone could answer, the archive's tone shifted. The calm voice became almost accusatory. Humanity's legacy is one of strength and sacrifice, but also of arrogance. Only those who understand the burden of power may inherit their knowledge. Will you choose to follow their path or suffer their fate? The screen faded, replaced by an ominous countdown. Inside humanity's test, the crew panicked as the countdown ticked down. Lights on the human warships began to pulse in synchronization with the timer. Yalvik barked orders to maintain composure. Calm yourselves. This is part of their test. If we fail now, we might not live to understand their message. Rin, determined to uncover more, dove back into the archive. There's a deeper layer of information here, locked behind an encryption key. It's testing our understanding of their history, their choices. Let's think, Yalvik said, his antennae twitching in thought. Humanity's message is clear. They value strength, but not without wisdom. We need to show that we're not just capable of force, but also of restraint. The countdown reached its final seconds. The alien crew braced for impact, expecting annihilation, but instead, a blinding light filled the room. When their vision cleared, the archive had changed. A shadow in history. The new information revealed a side of humanity no one expected. It spoke of internal struggles, divisions among their people that nearly brought them to extinction before their rise to galactic dominance. Civil wars raged, ideologies clashed, and billions perished before humanity learned the price of peace. They were flawed, Yalvik muttered. They'd fought among themselves, just like us. Rin nodded, scrolling through the data. But they adapted. They learned. And in their unity, they found a strength that terrified the galaxy. The final image lingered. A solemn monument on Earth, inscribed with the words, "Only in the face of destruction did we find unity." The archive's voice returned, softer now, almost empathetic. The burden of power is not to wield it, but to understand it. Your choices will decide whether you walk alongside us or repeat our mistakes. The screen darkened again, leaving the crew in contemplative silence. The warship above them pulsed once more, its engines roaring to life. A single message flashed on their console. Prepare. The test begins now. The aliens had thought they were uncovering a relic of the past. Instead, they were being challenged to confront the very essence of what made humanity both feared and respected. As they prepared to face the unknown, one question loomed large. Were they ready to carry humanity's legacy? Or would they, too, be judged unworthy? The awakening. The Ventari trembled as the warship above them roared to life, its engines unleashing a low hum that felt like the heartbeat of a giant. The crew watched in stunned silence as beams of golden light shot out from the warship, illuminating the asteroid field. One by one, the dormant ships in the fleet began to awaken. Their activation was mesmerizing. Massive energy cores pulsated with light, and shield matrices shimmered like liquid stars. The once silent graveyard of vessels transformed into a bustling armada, their weapons systems humming with latent power. "Commander Yalvik," Rin whispered, his voice barely audible. "This is more than a fleet. It's a system, a living, coordinated network. They're all connected, responding to a central command." Yalvik's sharp eyes narrowed as the fleet shifted into formation, creating a perfect circle around the Ventari. "A coordinated response," he muttered. "We've triggered something, but why haven't they attacked?" The answer came moments later. A holographic figure appeared in the center of the Ventari's bridge. It was a human, clad in ornate armor that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. The figure was tall, imposing, and yet its expression held a strange mix of authority and sorrow. Its eyes scanned the room, focusing on each alien in turn. "I am Sentinel," the figure said, its voice deep and resonant. "Guardian of the United Earth Armada. You have trespassed into restricted territory. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Yalvik stepped forward, his antennae twitching. "I am Commander Yalvik of the Zoreth Alliance. We are explorers, seeking knowledge of the past. We mean no harm." Sentinel's gaze bore into him, unblinking. "Knowledge is a dangerous pursuit. Humanity's legacy is not for the unworthy. You have awakened the fleet. Now you must prove your intentions. Before Yalvik could respond, the hologram's form flickered, its expression hardening. Prepare for the trial of worth. The trial begins. The crew barely had time to react before the Ventari systems were seized. Lights dimmed, and the ship's controls locked, leaving them adrift in space. The hologram vanished, replaced by a glowing interface on the main screen. Rin studied the symbols flashing across the console. "It's a puzzle," he said, his voice trembling with both fear and fascination. "A test of logic and decision-making. They're evaluating us." The interface displayed a simulated battlefield, dozens of alien vessels facing off against the human fleet. The scenario presented a grim choice: destroy the enemy entirely or seek a peaceful resolution at great risk. Yalvik frowned. "It's not just a tactical test. They're measuring our values. If we choose brute force, we might fail." The crew debated furiously, each alien offering their perspective. The younger officers argued for safety through overwhelming firepower, while the older crew members urged caution and diplomacy. Finally, Yalvik made the call. "We take the risk," he declared. "If humanity valued peace above all, we must prove we do the same." The command was entered, and the simulation played out. The Ventari's simulated forces approached the human fleet under a banner of truce, negotiating terms of coexistence. It was a gamble, and the simulated fleet initially responded with hostility. But as the simulation unfolded, the human forces recognized the sincerity of the gesture and stood down. The interface went dark, and the bridge was silent once more. Then, Sentinel's holographic form returned, its expression softer. "You have chosen the path of peace," it said. "But peace is not achieved through words alone. It is forged in the fires of sacrifice. Are you prepared to endure the next trial?" A trial of sacrifice. Without warning, the ship's oxygen levels began to drop. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to restore life support, but the controls remained locked. Sentinel's voice echoed through the chaos. "Sacrifice defines the worthy." Humanity endured trials that tested their resolve and unity. Now you must do the same. Only together can you survive. The realization hit Yalvik like a thunderbolt. They're testing our ability to cooperate under pressure. This is a test of our unity. As oxygen levels plummeted, panic began to spread. Crew members argued over the limited supply of emergency masks. Tensions flared, and old rivalries surfaced. Yalvik slammed his fist on the console. "Enough. We survive together, or we fail together." His voice cut through the chaos, rallying the crew. He ordered the remaining oxygen to be redistributed equally and instructed his team to work in pairs to conserve energy. Slowly, the panic subsided, replaced by a focused determination. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, but eventually, the systems roared back to life. Fresh air flooded the ship, and the crew collapsed in relief. Sentinel's form reappeared, its expression unreadable. "You have passed the second trial," it said. "Unity under adversity is the foundation of strength, but the final trial will test your hearts." The hologram vanished, and the fleet's ship shifted formation, clearing a path to the largest vessel, a dreadnought the size of a small moon. Its dark surface shimmered as its colossal hangar bay opened, inviting the Ventari inside. Yalvik took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on the looming dreadnought. Whatever this final trial is, it will define not just us, but how history remembers our species. As the Ventari drifted toward the dreadnought, the crew braced themselves. Humanity's legacy was not just a story of strength. It was a challenge to prove they could be better. Humanity's legacy. The Ventari entered the massive dreadnought's hangar bay, its size overwhelming even the seasoned crew. Rows of smaller, agile warships lined the cavernous interior, their sleek designs shimmering under faint lights. The air felt heavy, charged with a presence none of them could explain. As the ship docked, the crew received another message from Sentinel. "Proceed to the central chamber. The legacy of humanity awaits. The Chamber of Truth. The crew descended from their vessel, their steps echoing in the silent hangar. The passageway ahead seemed alive, its walls pulsing faintly with energy. Symbols, both alien and human, flickered across the surfaces, whispering of a history long forgotten. "Stay together," Commander Yalvik ordered, his voice firm. "This place is as much a test as anything else. Observe, but do not touch." They reached a massive door engraved with human imagery, scenes of innovation, war, and triumph. At the center of the door was an inscription: "Our strength lies not in power, but in purpose." The doors opened, revealing a grand chamber bathed in golden light. In the center, a towering crystalline structure pulsed rhythmically, like a beating heart. Surrounding it were holographic displays, each showing snippets of human history. A quiet hum filled the air, soothing yet ominous. Sentinel's hologram appeared once more, but this time it was joined by others. These new figures were human in appearance. Their forms varied: soldiers, scientists, leaders, and civilians. Their expressions were solemn as they surveyed the alien crew. "You stand at the crossroads of our past and your future," Sentinel intoned. "This is the final trial, to understand what we left behind, and to decide if you are ready to inherit it." The legacy revealed. The crystalline structure emitted a soft beam of light that enveloped the crew. Each member was pulled into a separate vision, memories of humanity's greatest triumphs and deepest tragedies. Yalvik's vision. He saw humanity at the height of their power, standing united against overwhelming odds. Despite internal divisions, they banded together to protect not just themselves, but countless other species. Ren's vision. The historian witnessed humanity's moments of weakness, times when greed and ambition nearly destroyed them. But he also saw their capacity to learn and adapt, to grow stronger through failure. Others' visions. Each crew member experienced something different: scenes of love, sacrifice, hope, and despair. The essence of what it meant to be human flowed through them. When the visions ended, the crew was left shaken but enlightened. They looked at one another, realizing they had been shown not just humanity's legacy, but a mirror of their own struggles and potential. The question. Sentinel stepped forward, its presence commanding. "Humanity left this fleet not as a weapon, but as a promise. We sought to protect those who could not protect themselves, but we also knew the danger of unchecked power. Now we ask you, what will you do with what we leave behind?" The crystalline structure pulsed brighter, and the holograms of humans turned their gaze toward Yalvik. It was clear the question required not just an answer but a decision, one that would shape the destiny of the Zoreth Alliance. Yalvik's voice was steady, though his heart raced. "Humanity's story is one of learning from the past to shape a better future. If we are to inherit this fleet, we must honor that purpose. We will use it not for conquest, but for protection and unity." The chamber went silent, and the crystalline heart dimmed. The holograms exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Finally, Sentinel spoke. "You have chosen wisely. But choices are not words, they are actions. Your intentions will be tested in the fires of what is to come." The price of inheritance. The room shifted as Sentinel's words faded. A new holographic display appeared, showing the galaxy as it currently stood. Wars raged across countless systems, alliances crumbled, and innocents suffered. The Ventari crew realized the truth. Inheriting humanity's fleet came with the responsibility of intervening in these conflicts. "This is the burden we carried," Sentinel said. "To wield power is to bear its weight. Will you take on this burden, knowing it may cost you everything?" Yalvik's crew exchanged uncertain glances. The scale of what they were being offered was staggering. But one by one, they nodded, their resolve hardening. "We accept," Yalvik said firmly. "Not because we desire power, but because we cannot ignore the suffering we've seen." The crystalline heart pulsed brightly, its energy washing over the crew. Sentinel nodded, its expression softening for the first time. Then humanity's legacy is yours. Prove yourselves worthy, not with words, but with deeds. The chamber faded, and the crew found themselves back aboard the Venturi. The fleet surrounding them had reoriented, no longer a threat but an ally. The ship's systems synchronized with the Venturi, awaiting commands. A new beginning. As the Venturi prepared to leave the asteroid field, a final message appeared on their console. You are not alone. Humanity watches from the shadows, waiting for the day we can walk among the stars once more. The crew looked at one another, their expressions a mix of awe and determination. They had inherited more than a fleet. They had become part of a story that spanned millennia. Set course for the Zorath capital, Yalvik ordered. We have a new mission, and it begins now. The Venturi led the human fleet into the vast unknown, ready to uphold the promise of humanity's legacy. A test of worth. The combined fleet of the Venturi and the awakened United Earth Armada emerged from the asteroid field like a sleeping giant finally stirred. The Zorath crew stood at their stations, awestruck by the power under their command. Hundreds of human ships, each carrying the weight of a 500,000-year legacy, now waited for a single directive. But before Yalvik could issue any orders, Sentinel's hologram appeared once more, now aboard the Venturi. Its gaze swept over the crew with calculated intensity. Control is not given. It is earned, Sentinel declared. Humanity entrusted this fleet to those who would prove their worth, not just in intent, but in action. Your final test begins now. The arrival of a threat. An alert sounded across the bridge, cutting through the air like a blade. The crew turned to the main screen as a distress signal appeared. A Zorath colony on the edge of their territory was under attack. The attackers, an aggressive alien species known as the Darvax, infamous for their brutal raids and enslavement of weaker civilizations. Rin's voice trembled as he analyzed the data. The Darvax fleet is massive, Commander. They're overwhelming the colony's defenses. If we don't act now, they'll. Yalvik raised a hand, silencing the historian. He turned to Sentinel. This is the test, isn't it? You brought us here to see how we would respond. Sentinel's expression remained impassive. Humanity's fleet was designed for defense, not conquest. But defense often requires choices, hard ones. Will you act to save others, even at great cost to yourselves? The first command. Yalvik's decision was immediate. We can't stand by while innocents suffer. Prepare the fleet for deployment. The crew hesitated, the weight of the moment settling over them. Taking control of the fleet was one thing, using it in battle was another entirely. They were explorers, not warriors. But as Yalvik's voice rang out with unwavering authority, their resolve solidified. With a single command, the Venturi linked to the United Earth Armada, their systems aligning in perfect harmony. The human ships moved with precision, their formations adapting to Yalvik's orders as if anticipating his every move. Set course for the colony, Yalvik ordered. We'll show the Darvax what it means to face the legacy of humanity. The battle unfolds. The fleet arrived at the besieged colony in a flash of light, emerging from hyperspace like a tidal wave. The Darvax ships, though numerous, were primitive compared to the technological marvels of the human armada. Still, their numbers made them a formidable threat. The battle began with a single warning shot. One of the human dreadnoughts fired a focused energy beam, obliterating a Darvax destroyer in an instant. The enemy fleet faltered, clearly unprepared for the overwhelming firepower they now faced. Commander, they're regrouping, Rin reported. They're positioning themselves to target the colony directly. Yalvik's mind raced. The Darvax were desperate, willing to sacrifice everything to deny the Zorath their victory. Deploy the interceptors, he ordered. Protect the colony at all costs. The smaller human ships broke from formation, their engines blazing as they sped toward the colony. They intercepted the Darvax assault ships with surgical precision, dismantling their ranks and forcing them to retreat. The unexpected dilemma. Just as the tide of battle seemed to turn, Sentinel spoke. A critical decision lies before you, Commander. The Darvax fleet is retreating, but their flagship remains. Their leader is aboard, and without him, their empire will collapse. Do you strike to end their threat forever or show mercy? Yalvik froze. The Darvax leader had committed countless atrocities, and eliminating him would save untold lives. But humanity's message echoed in his mind. Our strength lies not in power, but in purpose. Ren stepped forward. Commander, we have a chance to end their tyranny here and now. But what example would we set for those who follow? The crew waited, tension thick in the air. Finally, Yalvik made his choice. Target the flagship's engines. Disable it, but leave the leader alive. If we are to inherit humanity's legacy, we must rise above revenge. The human fleet executed the command flawlessly. The Darvax flagship was immobilized, its weapons systems disabled. A transmission from the enemy leader crackled through the comms, filled with desperation and disbelief. You could have destroyed me. The Darvax leader snarled. Why spare us? Yalvik's response was calm but firm. Because strength is not just the power to destroy. It is the wisdom to know when not to. A new purpose. As the battle ended, the colony sent a message of gratitude, their voices filled with relief. The crew of the Ventari stood silently, the gravity of their actions sinking in. They had not only passed humanity's test, but had proven to themselves that they were worthy of this power. Sentinel reappeared, its expression softer than before. You have shown restraint, courage, and wisdom. Humanity would have been proud. The fleet is now yours to command, but remember, this is only the beginning. The crew exchanged glances, their faces reflecting a mix of pride and determination. They had not only saved a colony, but had taken their first steps toward becoming the guardians of peace that humanity had envisioned. As the Ventari led the fleet away from the battlefield, Yalvik spoke, his voice resolute. We don't just inherit humanity's ships, we inherit their purpose. From this day forward, we carry the torch of their legacy. And with that, the United Earth Armada, reborn under new leadership, disappeared into the stars, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The verdict. The Ventari led the United Earth Armada to a quiet sector of space, far from the battle they had just fought. The crew, still processing their newfound responsibility, gathered in the command center. The weight of what they had achieved, and what lay ahead, pressed heavily on their shoulders. As they settled into a tense silence, Sentinel's hologram appeared once more. This time, its form was accompanied by others, echoes of humanity's leaders, scientists, and warriors, all gazing at the crew with solemn expressions. Your actions have spoken louder than words, Sentinel began, its voice carrying an unfamiliar warmth. You have passed the trials and proven yourselves worthy. But the final judgment does not come from us. It comes from the legacy you choose to leave behind. The fleet's activation. The room trembled as the Armada responded to an unseen command. Screens across the Ventari came alive, displaying vast sections of the fleet powering up. Weapon systems gleamed, shields activated, and engines roared with life. Yet, for all its power, the Armada awaited one thing, a directive. The fleet is now fully operational, Sentinel said. It will follow your orders, Commander Yalvik. But power without purpose is a dangerous thing. What is your first command? The room fell silent. Every crew member looked to Yalvik, waiting for his answer. He paced slowly, the question heavy on his mind. His first command would define not only their mission but their legacy. We will not use this fleet to dominate, Yalvik said, his voice steady. We will use it to protect those who cannot protect themselves. This armada will stand as a shield, not a sword. Sentinel nodded. Your choice aligns with humanity's greatest hope, that those who inherit their power would rise above their mistakes. But words must be tested by action. The Rift's call. As if on cue, a new alert blared through the ship. A rippling distortion appeared on the main screen. a massive energy rift forming in space, its swirling tendrils threatening to consume everything nearby. Sentinel's expression darkened. "This is no ordinary phenomenon," it explained. "Humanity identified such rifts long ago. They are remnants of interdimensional warfare, capable of destabilizing entire sectors. Left unchecked, this rift will destroy every nearby system." Ren leaned forward, his hands gripping the console. "There's a colony near that rift. Millions of lives are at risk." Yalvik's decision was immediate. "Set a course. We'll use the fleet to contain the rift." But Sentinel's warning stopped him short. "The rift's energy is volatile. Direct intervention will come at great risk. Are you willing to sacrifice some of the fleet, even your own ship, to save others?" The cost of sacrifice. The Ventari led the fleet into the heart of the crisis. The rift loomed ahead, a swirling vortex of raw energy that distorted space and time. Its pull was immense, dragging debris and smaller vessels into its maw. "Deploy the smaller ships to form a containment field," Yalvik ordered. "We'll use the dreadnoughts to stabilize the rift's energy." The armada moved like a single organism, executing Yalvik's plan with precision. Smaller ships formed a perimeter, their energy shields locking into a lattice to contain the rift's expansion. The larger vessels fired synchronized beams of energy, targeting the rift's core. At first, the plan seemed to work. The rift began to shrink, its violent pull weakening. But as the armada pushed harder, the rift lashed out. Waves of energy surged, disabling several ships and threatening to collapse the containment field. "Commander," Ren shouted, his voice frantic, "if we don't reinforce the containment field, the rift will collapse explosively. We could lose the entire fleet." Yalvik's face hardened. "Redirect power from our ship's systems to the containment field. We'll hold it together." The crew protested, knowing it would leave the Ventari vulnerable. But Yalvik's resolve was unshaken. "This is why we were given this power, to protect, no matter the cost." A beacon of hope. As the Ventari poured its energy into the containment field, the strain began to show. Systems failed, lights flickered, and the ship's hull groaned under the pressure. The rift's energy pushed back, its final defiance threatening to undo everything. Then Sentinel's voice rang out. Humanity's legacy was built on unity. Trust in your fleet. The armada responded as if hearing the call. Disabled ships reactivated, their systems feeding into the containment field. The fleet moved as one, their combined strength overwhelming the rift. With a final, deafening roar, the rift collapsed into nothingness, leaving only silence in its wake. The crew erupted in cheers, their relief palpable. Yalvik sank into his chair, exhaustion evident but tempered by pride. The fleet had not only survived, it had proven its purpose, a galactic message. As the armada regrouped, a transmission came from the rescued colony. The Zorith leader's face appeared on the screen, her expression a mix of awe and gratitude. "You've not only saved us," she said, "but you've shown the galaxy what it means to wield power responsibly. Your actions will be remembered for generations." Sentinel appeared beside her, its gaze fixed on Yalvik. "You have fulfilled humanity's hopes, but remember, this is just the beginning. The galaxy is vast, and its challenges many. Will you continue to uphold this legacy?" Yalvik stood, addressing both Sentinel and his crew. "We will. This fleet is more than ships and weapons. It is a symbol of hope, and as long as we command it, we will honor humanity's purpose." The armada turned, its ships shining like beacons against the dark void. The message was clear. Humanity's legacy lived on, not in dominance, but in the actions of those who chose to protect. Humanity's echo. The United Earth Armada, led by the Ventari, moved silently through the stars, a reminder of power tempered by purpose. The galaxy watched with bated breath as the Armada's presence spread through interstellar networks. Speculations ran wild. Some viewed the fleet as saviors, while others whispered fears of conquest. Inside the Ventari, Commander Yalvik and his crew prepared for what would come next. The trials they had faced had forged them into something more than explorers. They were now custodians of a legacy older than any living civilization. A mysterious transmission. Days after the rift's collapse, a new signal was detected. Unlike the previous distress calls, this one was faint, almost like a whisper. It carried an encoded message in an ancient human language. Rin deciphered the signal, his voice trembling. "Commander, this transmission is coming from Earth." The room fell silent. Earth, the cradle of humanity, had been abandoned for over 500,000 years. It was said to be a lifeless world, consumed by war and time. And yet, the message was unmistakable. "It's an invitation." Rin continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "A call to return. The journey to Earth." The Ventari and its fleet set course for Earth, a journey that would take them to the heart of humanity's forgotten past. As they drew closer, the stars seemed to dim, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. When they finally arrived, the crew was met with a sight that defied all expectations. Earth was not the barren wasteland they had imagined. Instead, the planet shimmered with an ethereal glow, its surface alive with lush greenery and sprawling oceans. Orbiting the planet was a massive structure, a space station unlike anything they had seen before. "Scans indicate the station is active," the navigator reported. "It's generating a planetary shield. And something else. The energy readings are off the charts." The station opened its docking bay, inviting the Ventari inside. The crew hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Finally, Yalvik gave the order. "Take us in. Whatever awaits, we face it together." The voice of humanity. The docking bay was vast, its walls lined with ancient human technology. At its center stood a single console, glowing faintly. As the crew approached, the familiar form of Sentinel appeared, but it was different this time. Its presence was more human, its expression almost emotional. "You have come far," Sentinel said. "And now you stand where humanity's journey began and where it ended." The console activated, projecting a hologram of Earth's surface as it had been eons ago. Cities stretched toward the sky, bustling with life. But the images shifted, showing humanity's darkest moments. Wars that scared the planet, conflicts that nearly consumed them. Humanity's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness, Sentinel explained. "Our ambition drove us to conquer the stars, but it also blinded us to the cost. When we realized the galaxy could not survive our presence, we made the ultimate sacrifice." The hologram showed humanity's exodus, their ships leaving Earth, carrying their people to unknown destinations. Sentinel continued, its voice heavy with emotion. "We scattered, not to escape, but to give the galaxy a chance to grow without our shadow. Yet we left behind this fleet and this station, a beacon for those who might carry our ideals forward." The final test. The console displayed a new challenge. A simulation of galactic-scale crisis, war, famine, and extinction-level events. Each scenario required a decision, and each decision carried consequences. "You must show us," Sentinel said, "not just your ability to lead, but your capacity for compassion, wisdom, and sacrifice. Only then can you unlock the full legacy of humanity." Yalvik and his crew worked together, facing each crisis with determination. The scenarios tested their unity, their values, and their courage. At times, they disagreed, but their shared purpose brought them back to common ground. After what felt like hours, the simulation ended. The room was silent, the air heavy with anticipation. Humanity's gift. The console's glow intensified, and the station came alive with light. Sentinel's form shifted, becoming more human with each passing second. Its voice was softer now, almost reverent. "You have proven yourselves worthy, not just of the fleet, but of the ideals we sought to protect. Humanity's legacy is now yours." The console opened, revealing a crystalline device, an archive containing the sum of humanity's knowledge, their history, and their greatest achievements. The crew stared in awe as the device floated into Yalvik's hands. "This is not just knowledge," Sentinel explained. "It is a guide, a reminder of who we were and who you can become. Use it wisely." A new era. The fleet departed Earth, leaving the station to continue its silent vigil. The Ventari and its armada now carried more than weapons. They carried hope, wisdom, and the weight of an ancient responsibility. As the fleet traveled through the stars, Yalvik addressed his crew. "We are no longer just explorers. We are guardians, protectors of a legacy that stretches across millennia. Humanity entrusted us with their greatest gift. Let us prove we are worthy." The crew cheered, their spirits lifted by the promise of a brighter future. Across the galaxy, the presence of the United Earth Armada inspired hope and fear in equal measure. But one thing was certain: the echoes of humanity's legacy would ripple through the stars for generations to come. And somewhere, in the farthest reaches of the cosmos, humanity watched, waiting for the day when their children among the stars would rise to meet them again.